Good evening and welcome. Tonight is Wednesday, August 5th. Thank you. We are currently in session. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Is there any items anybody would like? Second? Are there any items anybody would like pulled from the consent agenda? Then can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Second? All those in favor? We have the next item of the consent agenda is the acceptance of donations. There are 4. There is a donation Blue Mountain student account, Summer Star Camp, Katzenstein, which is again for the special ed summer camp, and also there is the donation from the McCoy family for a graduation award. I'd like to thank everybody for their efforts in making these donations. It always helps our students. It's a wonderful thing, and it really adds the special things that we can't otherwise. So can I get a motion to approve these 4 items as presented? Second. All those in favor? That brings us to the superintendent.
Yes. A couple updates, but
Audience comments.
yes.
It brings us to audience comments. Okay, there we go.
A couple updates, but before I give those updates, I'd like to introduce Karen Hoffman to the board. Karen is joining us as our communications specialist through BOCES. She is filling the big shoes that Annie Chestnut leaves behind as she moves westward to California. Annie was going to join us tonight, but is battling migraines or is just really sad she's leaving us.
Let's hope she's just sad.
Let's hope she's just sad. But we wanted to use tonight to recognize Annie for her efforts, but perhaps we'll be able to do that before she moves. And welcome Karen, who is not a Hen Hut resident, but is awfully close, down the street in Croton. I had the opportunity to meet with her, but she came very, very highly recommended from Ellen Lane, who coordinates all things communications from BOCES. We met in Yorktown, and I think it's going to be a great partnership. So, Karen, if you want to introduce yourself to the board and fill us in on who you are and what you're about.
All right, my name is Karen. I'm really excited to be starting this new position in Hen Hut. Like you said, I'm right down the street from it. I spent a lot of time up here. And I've worked for BOCES for about the last 8 years, writing newsletters, doing PR, doing all communications for Lewisboro, for Haldane, and for the 4 special ed schools within BOCES. So I'm looking forward to continuing those things and getting out the good word about the stuff going on and working with all of you. Good.
So don't be a stranger when you see Karen. We've paraded her around as much as we can to all of the staff and the different initiatives we've had going on the last couple of weeks. So she has jumped right in. There's certainly no grass growing under her.
Well, thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much.
2 other quick updates. Leadership Week. We kicked off this year our first ever elementary leadership week. It was 3 days of reflection, planning, and implementation for our 3 elementary schools. This is sort of the next iteration of the strategic plan, if you will, of really getting our strategies into every classroom and every teacher. So the 3 elementary schools spent 3 days reviewing their data, talking about what works, and creating a school-specific plan for improvement around instruction, around use of data, and RTI. So they are finishing up their plans later in August. They have a rollout schedule with their schools on the first and second day of school. Charles came for lunch one day. Barbara was able to come down for lunch and hang out a little while in the afternoon. That's always a nice connection to have.
Hanging.
Yeah, hang out,
Hanging.
yeah. Always a nice connection to have the board visible and a part of these initiatives, especially when they're new initiatives and we're trying to take our work in a different direction.
And I just want to say I received such positive feedback from the teachers. They were, very, very happy that this was taking place. They were very happy to be participating in it, and extremely pleased to see board membership there. So it was a very positive reaction on all levels about this training. So thank you, thank you.
And I really enjoyed it because it was in a district full of good teachers. There were some wonderful teachers participating in this, one from each school plus specialists. And the structure that you guys came up with, Margaret, Lynn, and Ann Curry?
Judy Cole.
Judy. Sorry.
News, we're on the news. You're getting our news specialist first.
But they had a very good structure for each session. There were 6 sessions, and talk about what they did, and they looked at each school and how they were meeting, and tried to see how they compared, so they could find out what's different about schools. And as Joe pointed it out, it's a specific pivot from what, being concerned about what you're teaching, to how you're teaching, how to become a better teacher, and how to take those practices back to the building and reach out to every teacher in the building so that everybody teaches its common practices. So to me, it was exciting to watch it early in the process. It's just the first session.
Yeah, not only just, common practices, but what people actually need. And they're there to help, I think, provide teachers with the various, sources that they need assistance in. So it was wonderful, really. You did a beautiful job. Lynn did a beautiful job. It was very, very nice to see.
It was an opportunity to acknowledge and reinforce that we have to have a consistent K-5 program, yet respect that each school has its own DNA and their own system of solving problems. But what was very clear, we did a Wordle and some engagement activities, but it was about collaboration and time. And this group has made some serious recommendations about how we use time, faculty meeting time, grade level time, personal planning time, before and after school, to help get the job done. So it was a very refreshing conversation to talk about systems issues and how classroom teachers are going to participate in that process. Margaret, speaking of not allowing grass to grow under anyone's feet, Margaret was very active even in the planning and leading it. I don't know if you have any commentary. We didn't rehearse this.
Well, I thought it was a very productive 3 days, and really all credit to the teachers that came and took part. They were clearly the right people at the table, which is what is step number 1 and what's most important. And for people who could have been anywhere else during July on vacation, they took that time to come and be part of some very hard thinking. Those were not 3 easy days.
No.
We really asked them to dig deep about what they need and how they will, first of all, put that forth for their colleagues, but then also be a support for those colleagues. So they exercised some deep thinking and I think a good exchange of ideas across the 3 schools. So I think everybody, of course, I thank all of you for it was wonderful to see you and thank you for the compliments, but, they did the heavy lifting.
No, I compliment them as well, because it was interesting after 3 days of doing what they had to do. It was interesting because I ran into some people that last night we were at the movies and I happened to see some of the people who had been at the workshop, and I said, "Oh, thank you so much." I said, "You must be exhausted." They said, "No, they were so invigorated and they really wished that they had more time,"
There was a lot
which
of good
I was
energy.
surprised, but I think that's wonderful. That's a tribute to everybody who was involved.
So,
And that rolls into my my second update, and then we'll turn the floor over to the high school folks of the strategic plan in general. We're going through what we're calling an internal SWOT analysis. We're looking at all things curriculum and instruction in the 12 strategies, and the 5 principals and their administrative teams are going to make a set of recommendations of how to narrow the focus of the plan, going through just an abbreviated SWOT analysis. That information will come back and be shared at a subsequent training with our strategic plan partners on August 24th, the week before school opens, and then we'll be able to bring that back in terms of a recommendation to our strategic plan committee and also the board in terms of a timeline and priority areas for us to dust off the plan and get cracking at it. So hopefully in September, early October, we'll have that in priority order for the board. And with that, I will turn it over to Jim Mackin, who is here to give us an update on all things Common Core math, which is everyone's favorite topic. And he has handouts. I'm going to see if I can turn this on, at least follow along electronically.
Are you putting it up here?
I'm going to try.
You have a couple of us picked them up.
We may need to
Just turn it.
cut the lights here. So.
I have it, thank you. I hope not.
That's okay.
Yep.
So good evening, everyone. I hope everybody's having a great summer. Thanks for having us. We'll try to keep it brief. This is bringing me back when I was hired here, just to come and speak and get to lean against. This is a good pole. It's comfortable for the big guys. As long as the podium's far enough away, you can fit between it. So, just a public service announcement, since a few birdies asked me, to the public, high school schedules will go live Friday, late afternoon, probably around dinner time, and guidance counselors are available via email to ask some of the questions that you probably will have. So, why we're here tonight. We want to talk a little bit about some of the rumblings that you're probably hearing, whether you're in a grocery store or in education circles, about mathematics. And there's been rumblings that have been happening since the Common Core rolled out. And they surround the Common Core curriculum, they surround the exams that are attached to these Common Core curricula, they surround how this curriculum has been rolled out. What I've decided to do this evening is to bring my colleague along, Mrs. Bailey. She's a new teacher in the district. She is going to talk to you and walk you through our proposal. And interestingly enough, many of our neighboring districts are going through some of the same evolutions here and looking at mathematics and how the state has outlined the topics and alignment to the standards and what's best for our students at Hen Hud. And I think what I'd like you to do as Marcia speaks is just really think about our kids and what's best for our kids, which we all do, but in particular with mathematics, because I think mathematics, we've struggled to fill gaps, and especially at the high school, trying to find the right way. And some people have dealt with integrated algebra issues, geometry issues, algebra 2 and trig issues. But this is an effort to try to align curriculum to make sure that our kids are best prepared, commensurate with their ability for when they enter college. So that could be pre-calculus, that could be calculus, that could be beyond calculus in high school. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Marcia, and I've asked her to keep it under 2 hours, so we should be out of here at about 10 o'clock. Marcia.
Thank you. I'll just echo what Mr. Mackin had said. I'm going to preface 1 or 2 other words. And if you could just maybe go back to the issue slide just for a second. I just want to make sure that you folks are all aware that what I want to talk about tonight has nothing to do with Algebra 1 Common Core. We are locked into Algebra 1 Common Core. Every child must pass the Common Core Algebra 1 Regents exam in order to earn a high school diploma. So what we're focusing on is what is best for each and every Hen Hud child, the weakest to the strongest, as they progress through geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus, or an alternative, and beyond. And our issue is that we do not feel that what the state of New York is asking us to do provides our kids with what's best for them to be prepared for where they each need and want to go, and where the parents want to see them go. So now we'll go on to importance. We feel that our kids have been prepared to succeed in college. We want to continue that, and we want to improve upon that, again, for all of our students. But more importantly, we want the students to appreciate what they're learning in mathematics, understand the relevance and importance, rather than just learn what we perceive, particularly in the future, to be disjointed topics needed to answer Regents' questions. We had, for the first time in my career here, I've seen more tears at the end of Regents exams than I ever experienced before. And the
We actually had
tests,
to take tests away.
Yeah.
Kids were not done in 3-hour periods.
well,
We had to
we
take
pulled
tests
them away, and that we've done, but never to the extent we do now. But the tears that went along with that was very disheartening to the staff. All right, let's just talk a little bit about the Common Core standards. I'm sure I don't have to tell any of you guys this. All of the high school math classes will follow the Common Core standards for all Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Pre-Calculus courses. Obviously, for the advanced and the elective and the college level courses, we follow the standards that are deemed for those. And this also includes all of our ICT classes, and all the way down to our self-contained SPED classes must follow the Common Core standards. We will continue to offer all of our courses, and the number one bullet there is the most important. We will continue to strive for every student to take 4 years of math in the most appropriate courses that they can. We have a very, very high percentage of our students, it's well up into the 90%, that do take 4 years of math at Hendrick Hudson High School, and we're very proud of that. The state requirement is only 3 years, and many of our students earn an additional credit for math through their tech programs out at BOCES. All right, so here's the changes. Common Core standards, well, these are the changes we would like to see implemented. The Common Core standards will be arranged into a more meaningful, purposeful, and timely order. Specifically, the major units of trigonometry, probability, and statistics. The order that the state is asking us to teach them in, we do not feel best prepares our students for success on the AP Calculus level, whether it be the AB or the BC level, into AP Statistics, our college credit-bearing courses, and we're very proud to say that we offer college credit-bearing courses in college algebra, in pre-calculus, along with the AP classes, and as we are researching much more, for success on the standardized exams, particularly the new SATs, which go into effect this March. So our juniors this March will be taking a new SAT, being that that's the one that predominantly a majority of our kids attempt, which is radically different from the other one, and the SAT is following their version of the Common Core standards.
Is this what's the 3 and 2?
No, this has nothing to do with 3 and 2.
But we'll get to that.
We're gonna get to 3 and 2.
So how many students go into AP Calculus and AP Statistics in those classes? How
We
many?
write, and this year coming up, we will have one section of BC Calculus. We'll have 2 sections of AB Calculus. We have one very large section
What section
of.
is how many kids?
So there's 18 kids in BC
Yeah,
Calculus.
probably 22, 20 in
Say
each
20.
of the ABs.
Yeah.
And then the,
So about 40 in the.
About 40 in
Yeah,
the AV, and then a
20-some
22 currently in
AP
statistics.
and then you have all the other college level
It's excellent.
classes for seniors. Oh,
So you're
it's,
looking at 100 kids easily.
Excellent.
well, I'm not looking at 100 kids, I'm looking at
No, but
800
I'm saying
kids.
just what he
But-
was asking about. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
oh, for
easily
AP
100.
level classes,
Wow.
yeah.
That doesn't include college algebra.
And the
College
pre-calculus.
pre-calculus.
No, but that's an impressive amount of children. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Now, our neighboring districts, Lakeland, Croton, and Ossining.
And us.
Lakeland, and, well, we don't call you a next door neighbor, but you're a neighbor. The Ossining and Croton have already implemented this. Lakeland will be implementing a similar plan of changes in the next school year along with us, hopefully. The changes we would like to make, our Geometry R and our Algebra 2R classes, the ones that traditionally terminated with the New York State Regents, will now terminate in a locally developed, rigorous final examination to be included in the student's final average and used to properly place students into their next math course. That is basically the only difference that we will be doing. We feel that creating a syllabus that rearranges some of the topics and a rigorous final examination, we have no problem sharing that with our neighboring districts, with BOCES, with the state. We feel it would be a better reflection of what the kids have learned in our classes. It will be a better indicator to the teachers what we were successful teaching, what we need to continue to work on. We should see the students seeing a much less stressful situation. We expect the exam to be rigorous. Will we probably have to pull away papers in 3 hours? Yeah, we always do that. But do I expect to see the tears? I hope not.
The focus becomes what it should be, which is curriculum instruction, data to inform our instruction that's accurate and appropriate. And it gets us away from, again, teaching those topics that a lot of times we feel like we're teaching them in that order to prepare
Right.
for a question on a Regents that we're not even sure is going to be there.
there, right.
And that's another one of the continuing issues. So we want to get the focus off of the state exam and on instruction and on appropriately placing students and making sure we're meeting the needs of our kids at Hen Hut.
Will those classes still be called Geometry Regents and Algebra
Well,
Regents?
we don't call them Regents, it's
They
just
just
called
are.
R. And the math department came up with this. We would like to continue to call it R because R is going to stand for rigorous.
Nice.
And
You know,
we
there's
like that.
and that's lovely.
Yeah.
That's good. There are some, we have to look. I don't think we're planning on changing any of the names, only because it does and can create an issue within the student management system, which causes issues with transcripts, which causes issues with the clearinghouse for NCAA. There's a ripple effect when you keep changing. That's why the state went to common coding and common naming of exam courses that were ending in Regents exams. So we probably won't touch the names.
It's not so easy to change the name.
No.
I know.
It's not
Yeah,
a matter of
it's-
ease. It's a matter of the problem that it causes.
Yeah.
We spent our teachers spent 3 days in, the elementary teachers rather, spent 3 days in leadership talking about, looking at data. And I know you spoke about making sure that assessments are really purposeful. What are we actually doing with these assessments? So if we're having really good assessments that can actually drive instruction with the data we receive from it, that's the most important thing. And children, I am sure, will be in a much better place because it will be, teacher-derived assessments, which are the most important things. So I applaud you for doing
We have
this.
felt that in recent times, the Regents has gotten
Absolutely.
away from that. They used to be informative to teachers. They certainly aren't now the way they used to be. I will come back and talk a little bit more about the 3 and 2. I mean, that's certainly an option on the floor, and I want to make sure I answer any questions you might have about it. We will still have, as an option for students, an appropriate time for them to take the geometry regions and the algebra 2 regions if they so desire. I know Croton has done this for a number of years now. I've spoken in great detail with their teachers. They thought they would have a lot of kids. They abandoned the algebra 2 years ago. I think they said they had 2 or 3 kids sit for the exam, and they were mostly transfer kids that had come in from other schools where they had prepped for it.
Just to clarify, and so this is how they need to take the regions to get that designation.
Well, there are other options, and the
So let me-
state is
No, I know
looking
that
at
that's, I'm just being devil's
Yeah.
advocate because
Yeah, no.
I know that that's what people
That's
are
a-
going to ask.
right.
Sure, and let me just give a quick, because that's a presentation in itself, and it's
Okay.
still evolving. And you're hearing a lot about pathways, and I know Mr. Hochreiter and Margaret have been working on. I think that's some of the work that the administrators are going to do, looking at pathways to graduation. And the state is a table online. We can get it to you, that talks about different pathways, alternatives to Regents exams. It's pretty detailed, and I don't think it's evolved all the way yet. They kind of say, oh, there's going to be pathways, but they haven't defined, I don't think, in detail all the bits and pieces of it, at least in my estimation of it. So we're not saying you can't get the advanced designation diploma. What we're saying is we're going to teach these things in a different order, which may or may not, because you never know with the regions.
It doesn't
prepare
best prepare you for the regions.
Best prepared. But we did talk about that because the question came up. We knew it would. And we're going to see how many kids actually would want to sit for those exams, and then we would plan accordingly, whether it be...
Will there be some sort of, it will be in a different order, and maybe they will not have covered something that they should have. How will these children students, be expected to, and parents, to cover that particular topic? Laura, you'd know better than I would what topic would be in one and wouldn't be in another. Say, something wasn't covered that's going to be in the Algebra 2 regions, but it wasn't covered in the,
Right,
the new
so-
sequence.
Virtually, we're
How
going
will
to
that
cover
go?
all the Common Core standards.
Okay.
The geometry regions, students would
And that's
most
on the-
likely be able to take that at the end of their geometry class. The way we are trying to plan right now to best cover the Algebra 2 and pre-calc topics, it might, we're not there yet, be in the best interest of the students to possibly take it in January of their senior
following.
year for a traditional student of their pre-calculus year. Many districts do that now with the Algebra 2 anyway.
So, but they may not have gotten every
Everything
topic
will be covered.
but not necessarily before the Regents exam is to be taken.
You may want to wait and take it.
Okay, so they could either take it later, but
Yeah.
will there be anything within the school, any way to prepare those students for what is not covered?
There
Or
won't
is
be
the
anything not
recommendation to
covered.
be
There
that will not be covered before the Regents exam is on, before that June Regents exam?
We could certainly make
I'm just
materials
I think,
available.
hold on, I
Okay,
think it's hard to
that's
make
fine.
that
Yeah.
determination. I
Yeah.
think it'd be hard to say definitively yes or no there.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of things that we have to see how they fall into place. But what I can tell you is our discussion with Joe and Margaret is that we're not just going to say, hey, we're making this change, and if you want to take the Algebra 2, we're not going to do anything for you. You're on your own. That's not what we're
Yeah,
going to do,
right.
obviously. So that's a discussion when we see what we're dealing with, how many kids we're dealing with. Just to give you a nutshell kind of idea. This year in the graduating class, 49% of our kids got advanced diplomas. So that's about 96, 97 kids. Well, I just told you there's 100 kids in our advanced math classes. Most of those kids, by state guidelines, qualify for geometry and algebra 2 credit, by taking calculus and scoring a 3 or better. There's alternatives that the state has outlined. So the 100 kids that we identified earlier are those kids that are getting the advanced diploma who would have gotten it anyway because they're in those advanced tracks.
Well, I just was, there's that, and
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that there's some, I don't want to say backup, but, and whether it's providing them with materials for them to review, or whether even
Yeah.
recommending wait 6 months and take it in
Yeah,
January.
right. Yeah.
It's just what
Yeah.
okay.
But
that's
we're
okay.
definitely
all
have
of the standards
contingency
for that
plans.
exam would be covered
Okay.
long
That's it.
before the very end of their senior year.
I just had a quick question.
Yeah.
Now, the state has planned for everyone to have the Common Core regions and testing by 2022. And I understand you only need the algebra technically.
Correct.
But are we sure that we're on that trajectory still? To be, I think we are, because
Yes.
the algebra is the only requirement. But
Well,
so far, but we
it'd
don't know
be
if that'll-
interesting to hear a little more from Margaret and some of my peers on the elementary and middle school level, the changes that they've been making. It's been very difficult at the high school because we've completed 2 years of Common Core implementation when it was, kind of thrust on everybody. We have not seen the ramifications of all of the work that the students and the staff have done to educate these kids in Common Core math, from grade 3 up. So we feel we're on track for the 2022, target, but a lot will depend on how everybody's doing along the way. So I'm, very excited to hear about what the elementary and the middle school teachers have been doing.
Marion had a quick question. I have a long involved.
I'm so surprised.
I could have a longer involved one, but I choose not to.
Well, I'm just trying to figure this out, Marcia. Are we creating a more complex system that's going to be sustainable in the time of declining enrollment? What I was I'm looking at, we've got ICT classes, we've got all these, a good presentation of this might have been a flow chart where you're looking at the streams of kids and how they branch off going out in the future. How many sections are we going to have? And how many kids have we got? Because our high school enrollment is going down over the next few years. Are we going to have enough kids to be able to sustain?
I would imagine, being that right now we have multiple sections of our ICT classes. We have 2 sections of Algebra 1 ICT, 2 sections of Geometry ICT, 2 sections of Algebra 2 ICT. So even with significant declining enrollment, which what I've looked at isn't hitting the high school for quite a few years, we will sustain at least one of those sections. I don't see it getting to the point where we're going to be begging to the board to, we've got to have this one small section. But the math department will, because we feel very strongly that we want each child in the class that's most appropriate for them at their ability level. Whether it be a child that's struggling or the very
And the
top end.
ICT it's all dependent on how many kids you have and what their needs are. So we could have a need for 3 sections one year, and with enrollment going down, depending on the percentage of special ed students and what their classification are, and we could go to next year and need 1. That's the tricky part, Mr. Thompson, with special ed staffing, because it's constantly in flux. Like this year, we graduated a number of kids. The kids coming in were double the amount that we graduated. So that creates interesting fluctuations in how we staff ICT mathematics. I think this solidifies it and makes it more sustainable, in my opinion, because we're going to teach these in an order that are more appropriate. We're going to be able to make adjustments, not linked to a Regents exam. We're not bound by this Regents exam in geometry. So we can really look at the data, look at how our kids are doing, and say, okay, we need to make some adjustments here, and not be afraid that, we're not going to do well on the Regents exam. Be more appropriate for what our kids are learning, what their level is.
Okay. The next thing I wanted to just let you know is that obviously we want to inform all of our students and the parents about this. And the math teachers will continue to do what we've done all along. We'll detail course descriptions on websites. We discuss this with our students in the beginning of the school year, usually every quarter with them. They're very knowledgeable about these things. We would like to have a math night for high school parents. We asked for Wednesday the 9th. I do think it's the night you have a board meeting, but it didn't conflict with anybody else's open houses or anything, but assuming you're going to be meeting at the high school, you can certainly stop by. We will again...
I'm telling Barbara ahead of time. She's covering.
We will have by then discussed it with the students the first couple of days of school. We will then discuss it with parents again at open house, and we'll certainly update the course handbook to reflect any changes. But it's really a minimal amount of changes. We're changing the end exam for 2 of our classes, and we're changing the order in which some of the advanced topics are being taught. In our opinion, I think you've got to trust the mathematical opinion of your staff on some of the key topics in math that the state has done quite a disservice to.
It's true.
So any questions about that before I jump in and just answer any questions you might have about 3 and 2? We've been working very hard with our partner schools at BOCES. We have developed a full 2-year curriculum, day-by-day lessons, where we have taken geometry, algebra 2, and pre-calculus, and kind of compressed those 3 years into 2. There are criteria for students to be accepted into the 3 and 2 program that we will share with you. I would certainly not want to do that without John Owens and the middle school representatives here. But we've finished our 3 and 2 curriculum. We will not be in a position to implement it for a couple of years, and because our current 8th graders will be the first group that when they get to 10th grade will be into that position. And our goal is to have more students enroll in calculus at the high school, instead of having kids that have been accelerated in the past that have not met with success being accelerated drop out of the accelerated program. I always liked Dr. Gottlieb's analogy, kids that were maybe smart in math in 5th and 6th grade and enjoyed doing it because it was one thing you could be accelerated at in the middle school. They find other interests. They find that maybe they weren't going to be quite as smart at some of the more rigorous topics in math, and they have been dropping out of our accelerated program. We still have them take 4 years of math, but we want to see the trend reverse, and we want to have more students involved in calculus as a result of this. I threw up, this is certainly not official, these are, and you have them there in front of you, our Regents results. These are only the students that were in our classes. This does include our ICT students, and for the Algebra 1, it does include our self-contained SPED students that you see there. This does not include kids that were walk-ins or retakes or anything like that.
Click it.
And the results that the middle school students had on their Regents exams
Next slide.
that they took as well. But you have that in front of you. And mastery is now a thing of the past with the 4s and 5s, so that will be the key factor we have to look to in the future.
In the past, to get the calculus by senior year, you had to take Algebra 1 in
8th grade.
school.
Yeah, in 8th grade.
That was the only way you could get there.
Yes, no. We've had a number of students over the years express an interest in accelerating themselves. And we have had some kids choose to do, say, a pre-calculus class between their junior and senior year at one of the local colleges, and then go in and attempt the calculus in their senior year, and they've met with success in doing that. Most kids don't choose to do that, and part of the reason is we have a fairly high percentage of our students already accelerated. We're more concerned with the other end. If we identify a student, we were hoping to have one young lady do that this summer. She and her family chose not to do it. We had it all arranged for her to do a pre-calculus class, and because of family commitments and other things, she chose not to. Again, like I said earlier, I want to see every child taking the best math class for them, to be challenged and to enjoy it and to learn something.
But traditionally, yes. The traditional manner is you'd have to take Algebra 1 in 8th grade. There are
You need to know it by 7th grade that you're going to do that, so if you...
Right, so it gets
if you had a
scheduled.
set
So that's the beauty
you
of
had
the
a
3 and
set
2.
deadline.
The
you know.
beauty of the 3 and the 2 is really to catch the late bloomers, and to find the kids that really do decide by the time they're 15, 16 years old, hey, I'm good at math, I like math, and I want to challenge myself.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Go back to one slide. I just want to point something out that usually BMM, next one. See the Algebra 1 Common Core? That is a tough ass test, excuse me. Right? For those little kids, that average is usually about 89 or 90.
Yeah, we
right?
used
this
to.
Is that's
Yeah.
a hard
Yeah.
test.
Well, I'm going to throw my percentage out. The state of New York publishes this. 3.8% of the students are scaled to obtain a score of 85 or higher.
Correct.
3.8% of the children are scaled to score 85 or higher. This is for the 9th grade regions. I think that's a crime, but that's the one we still have to give.
Yeah.
And it was only another 18% in the 4 range. So
It was awful.
yeah, the test is scaled for the kids to score in the mid-70s, you know. So it's not nice for kids. We want to make it better.
Sorry.
What if the state changes?
Because it never has? What are you talking about?
We'll have to ship up to it.
One of the things, I'll be honest with you, Charles, we've spent a lot of research this week. The math department has been doing some curriculum work. We've been examining not only New York, every other state in the union, and looked at what they're doing in implementing the Common Core standards. And when I first read about Common Core many years ago, I thought it was a wonderful idea that nationally we would have a unique set of standards for all children to learn in grades 3 through 12. It is not the case. Because especially on the high school level, when you examine what each state is doing, you see all of these little different implementations. Although there are many similarities, it's not what it was initially cracked up to be. But it's good. I'm for the standards.
I think something we forgot to mention too is there could be changes. I mean, you all know that Pearson is gone and a new test company is in. I think this is another benefit to us kind of pumping the brakes, letting our experts do what they do, trusting that to do what's best for our kids. I mean, we don't know what those tests are going to look like. We don't know where they're going to take them, how it's, we just don't. And I'd prefer to have our teachers worried about instruction than coming to me and saying, we don't have the latest curriculum piece, and I don't know if we're going to cover, the entire curriculum. Those are the conversations I have as a principal, instead of, look at this data, Jim. Look at how the kids did on this particular thing. We need to have some time to work on this. Instead, it's, I don't know if we're going to get through this. We don't have the support with the resources. As a leader, that isn't where I want to be. I want to be talking about student performance. I want to talk about student goals and where we need to be to make sure that our kids are college and career ready in mathematics and ELA. Those are the two big ones. That's
Also,
what we think.
using
That's what we
relevant
think we're
data.
doing.
I mean, certainly the data that you obtain from, tests that you actually write is going to be so much better, than data obtained from God knows who wrote the tests,
But that's at every level.
I know.
We write our tests all year long. This is a summative assessment to see what the kids know at the end of the year.
Absolutely.
So it's not like it's going to inform our instruction for kids because that's the end test. But we do that all year long.
Right.
Every
But
chapter,
what
every
I'm
quiz,
saying
You're gonna know
is,
where
though,
your
it's
gaps
going
are,
to
where,
be even
what they
better,
need to focus
and it's
more on
it's
going
going to
forward.
show
For kids.
where we're weak, and what areas do we have to focus on a little bit more, or right.
Yeah.
That's the point.
And your plan is that this will be implemented immediately this year.
And I guess my question is, we have the opportunity to do this where you don't have it 3 through 8. We have a chance to do something. I think that's right here, and I think that's shown by some of the other districts that are doing it as well. They're recognizing, and it was hard. I've had this conversation with Marcia for probably 8 years, 7 years. Teachers like the Regents exams. They used to anyway. When they were appropriate. And finally this year, we had a meeting of the minds, and I think it's the right thing to do.
It was very interesting. We had a very heartfelt conversation in one of our department meetings in, I want to say it was January, and I sent an email blast out to math people in northern Westchester, the Northern Putnam, Westchester, BOCES groups, and it was very ironic that same day Lakeland had the exact same discussion at their high school department level meeting. And as I said, they've gone forward and they will be doing this, not offering the Regents this year for the first time. And Croton and Ossining have been doing it for a couple of years now. And
Well, it's still an option. It's just
it's an
not
option,
our
but
end goal, but
it's
still
our
an
end
option
goal
for some.
is, instead of having to spend 2 or 3 days to teach this topic for one question that could potentially be on the Regents, when we don't feel it's mathematically sound or the appropriate place to be teaching it, we want to teach what we think will be much better for all of the kids, and particularly the kids that are going on to college, which is a very, very high percentage of our kids. So.
95.4%.
Very good.
I would just, the only
Not
thing,
that you can.
I would just ask that we continue to monitor this very carefully.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the one question theoretically, I thought, that theoretically the Common Core is supposed to change the algorithm. We think about math. I know you don't disagree, Lori, but it's supposed to create, higher level thinking and not relying on formulas, etc. So I just want to make sure we're monitoring it carefully to make sure our students, as they do develop these skills, will, be challenged so that the way they learn to think, they can then apply it when they're in high school. So that's,
I know Marcia's new, but I'm pretty sure
No,
we're going to
but
stay pretty close on
But
this.
you haven't been teaching in the Common
Yeah.
Core, and these kids are going to be thinking
Right.
in that way.
Yeah.
So, so it's just it's a different way of thinking. I mean, none of us here, I don't think, can do we can't do the Common Core math well, but these kids will be able to. Yeah.
No, it is very different.
No, I mean, we can do it. It's just not the way we think.
And again, we're not going away from that.
Yeah.
We're
No, it's-
sticking with that. And
Yeah.
I think
We still
it'll
have
help
standards,
us.
we're just
It'll
really
help
nice.
students
Yeah.
if we teach
That's
it in
the
the
goal.
appropriate
Yeah.
Well,
order.
as time goes on, and this concern is with the Common Core, you're gonna give me the, yeah, duh. But I have to assume you're going to be having conversations with the teachers at the middle school level and
Yeah.
on, you know, just to, for these gaps and to fill, you know, and these, you know,
Well-
we're, thank,
Yeah.
waiting for
Oh,
someone.
yeah. No, I've already honestly, I've been in contact with Rick Jackson, the math leader at the middle school. We've already asked to have a joint department meeting in October to kind of discuss what's going on. You know, and it was obviously thrust on them as well, and they're, you know, getting more used to the Common Core, and the kids that they're now seeing in the classroom have had more Common Core instruction over the last several years. But it,
No, I
I mean, the whole thing's going to get a whole lot
across
better.
the board, the communication has, I mean,
Yeah.
between the, you know, vertically within the school, but also with the parents and the student, and, you know, and the parents.
Right.
Because I think that's
Yeah.
gonna be the key, is making sure the parents understand, like,
Yeah.
what the,
Yeah.
what the why this is being done and what the intended goal is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any Joe and Margaret have an opinion?
Or Lori?
First, Margaret.
Well, we obviously met and spoke about this on more than one occasion, so this is clearly not a surprise. I always want to do what's right for kids, so I hear where they're coming from, and as most of you have said, I want us to try it and then keep a close eye on it and see if we're getting what we want to get out of it and what changes need to be made to get where we want to be with it. I also wanted us, and I think we were, thoughtful that we're not, you know, I don't want to wake up in October and say, oh, there's that one kid we didn't think about. So we talked at length about what would happen with the kid who wanted the Regents, or some parents who felt they wanted their students to take the Regents. We didn't want to say there will be no Regents, but rather if you want the Regents, it's still available for you, but it won't be forced upon you as your exit from this course. I do think, as a lot of you have also said, that as our children continue to move up through the elementary and middle school years, where Common Core has been being taught now for a while, they will see a different student in high school math, and then we have to rethink again, I'm sure, where we're going and what we want for kids. But I think this is very well thought out with folks who, I mean, I just got here, but Marcia clearly knows what she's talking about, and they do, I believe, have the best interests of our kids at heart. So I think that, you know, they're putting their heads together to try to get an experience that is what we would hope for our own children. And encouraging kids to continue to be students of mathematics, which is actually what the change in the Common Core math is intended to do. So,
My piece is a conversation Jim and I have had a couple times, and he mentioned it. Parents, separate from the content, parents have an expectation or an experience with a Regents diploma, the Advanced Regents diploma. So we just have to make sure part of our communication vehicle is while we're reordering math concepts during the year over 2 years, that parents know what the other pathways are to get to that diploma type. Because Jim's right, there are many that many people are probably not aware of. So we want to make sure that this isn't a door closer for parents as they feel, okay, my son's going to go to Binghamton or Albany or Buffalo, and they're big on advanced distinction. So it's a PR campaign on what the other pathways are, that this isn't going to exclude students from having that opportunity.
And it is a discussion that I know, just in speaking with a few parents that I know quite well in the district, that about things like this. They've already heard about it at the Little League game or wherever, at the town pool, from parents in the Croton district and in Lakeland and things like that. So it's out there that other districts are doing things like this in our neighborhood. So I don't think it'll come as a total surprise to everybody that we would want to follow suit with that.
Thank you. I do appreciate you taking the initiative and doing
Thank
this.
you.
Okay.
Thank you for coming out in
Thank you.
the summer, too.
Have a great rest of your summer as well.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to do is just go through this quickly, just so that we can confirm that the committees you are now assigned to are the ones that you wish to remain on. So if we can just go through who's on what, and if they want to stay or they want to shift and such, if we can go through them. Just go through one by one. We have Audit Committee, Barbara, Charles, and myself. Barbara and Charles? You're good? Charles, you're good? Okay. If somebody wants on to one of these committees and would like to be, please let me know as well. Facilities, Instruction, Carson, Charles, and Lori?
Yes.
All three of you? Okay.
There's one that's not on there that I wasn't in the safety committee.
Okay.
You just want to put that out there.
And that'll be you. Okay.
This way we'll get better correspondence, because I would be left off the meetings until the end. So.
Okay, are you the only one, or is there anybody else?
I was only in.
Okay, all right. Finance Committee, Carol, Charles, and myself. Carol, do you wish to stand?
Yep.
Charles? Okay, so will I. Leadership is Barbara and I. Policy is Carol, Lori, and Marion, and Barbara, you will be an alternate. Is that, are you guys still? Oh,
Yes.
Oh, I'll ask Marion. I'm sure she is.
Carol finally hit her stride.
Okay.
She's alone.
This is true. Strategic Planning is Carol and Charles and Marion.
Yes.
Charles?
Yeah, it doesn't meet very well.
Okay. The Grant Committee,
I'll be an alternate for that one, please.
which one? Strategic? All right, I'll put you down. Lori's one. Marion?
I'm good with my committee.
You're good with all policy and
Yep.
strategic plan?
Yep, strategic planning doesn't mean very much.
That's what
That's
Joe
We just said we will be.
Board
How
Rep
many- how often will we be?
Technology Committee is Charles with Carol and Barbara as alternates. IMC, Barbara is the rep, and with Marion and myself as alternates.
I hope we're going to meet
And
this
they,
year.
yeah, that was
Oh,
on
I'm
tonight.
sorry, I was skipped
Yeah.
down. No, I'm sorry, Marion, it's Lori and I.
Are we going to have any
Okay.
meetings?
I hope so.
Okay.
It's really
The board rep to
Wonderful.
PSBA, there are 3 alternates, and that would be Marion, Barbara, and myself.
I was never contacted. Was it-
No.
No,
Did anybody go? Did we-
How do you get her
no.
scheduled?
Let me look into that, and then I'll see,
I
like,
think
what
on the
that might be better.
website.
I think it's on the website. Yeah, I
They
think
send
we
you
should
stuff
go.
all
It's a
the
good,
time.
could we
They do, they do,
But
but
we've
it's
just never signed up for anything.
It's a good idea. It's a good.
Read Committee is Barbara and Charles with
Yeah.
Lori as an alternate.
Hopefully.
No, you don't want to be an
No.
alternate anymore? Okay.
Well, actually, we need to talk about it.
Not right now, we're going to keep going.
Actually, no, but if it's going to be a continuing committee.
Okay,
It
we'll
may
talk
not
about
be,
that.
though.
Okay. You'll have a sense of that, I'm sure?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, just last year they asked if we were going to be in it, if districts were going to be in it, that we need to have a commitment of the board member and the superintendent and all meetings, and we couldn't meet that commitment all year.
Okay. Well, we can
And
discuss
There's some
that then.
discussion about what we're going to work on next year, and that's a bigger topic.
Well, I think the discussion about who can, I think, you know.
I think you have to have that.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah,
to have
it's-
a
it's-
motion separately.
I think a board member, it's a lot easier for one of us to fill, but Joe's schedule could be, could preclude that sometimes, so I don't know that that's
Yeah. I mean, I'll stay
reasonable.
on it.
Respect Committee, I don't think really even exists, so we have,
Safety.
that's safety,
Yeah,
so I'm
put
going
it
to
as
just
safety.
remove
Yeah, I
that.
think we'll put it as safety.
PTA Liaison at BB, we currently have Charles and Barbara as, you guys will alternate?
No, we both usually end up going together.
Okay, so then I'll still put you as alternates, so, Franchi Lindsay, we have Barbara, Carol, and myself as alternates. Carol, do you still want that, or do you want to move up to Blue Mountain? I don't know where you're doing
anyway.
I don't know where
They're
you're.
both at Blue Mountain.
Okay, so are you still interested in committee?
Yeah, it's actually easier for me to do Frank G now because David doesn't have to go to the Frank G meetings anymore.
There you go. Furnace Woods is Charles and Barbara as alternates.
No, somebody's got to help with that because that's like, it could be like 3 nights in the same week. That
Yeah, I can't.
I can't do
Okay, so
that.
Charles, and you want me to take you guys off, or do we need?
No, but I would like somebody to really commit to helping. I don't mind being there if it's every other month, but for every month, there could be PTA on Monday for, you know.
Is there somebody
I
who
can't,
can
I mean,
EV.
I can do a small town, I'm not gonna be able to go, I have to be honest with you,
Actually,
just because of my schedule. but
Not
I
at
can-
any
I don't
of them
think
or
we have
some?
I can go
go
occasionally,
every
yeah,
month
I can stay in
anyway.
touch, and, you know, put me
All
as an
right.
alternate, yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
That's when I remember when they first came out with the idea of having a liaison. It was Karen Rosenkamp first, and she said, "Well, we're going to do this, but we're not going to go every month."
And we
We'll
don't
come and
have to
update
go
you.
every month.
Barbara and I have been going to BV every month because
You've been going to
That
all
might
of
be-
them.
You
yeah,
don't have
if
to
you-
go all of them.
Yeah.
If you went
I think you-
quarterly, let's just say, and they were staggered, the quarterly meetings were staggered, so they're not all the same week or same month, and have that very, in a predictable fashion with the
That's what I'm
PTA
saying, you go to all
officers
of
and the
them. You
principal,
don't
they
miss
can
anything.
design
So
a
we'll
meat
do
and
furnace woods,
potatoes.
we'll do the
You can
close.
do furnace woods, yeah, we can.
All right,
We'll do
so-
them
As
now.
long as you
let's just do that.
alternate,
So we're gonna
that's
go.
fine.
We'll go.
Okay.
You can
X
leave me
time.
and
Yeah.
alternate.
So Lori and Marion for Furnace Woods and Lori.
No,
So I have
Ever?
no, put it
I'm
down
gonna
as
stay in community.
alternates,
I'll
because if
communicate. It's
it's
just
three
my schedule.
people, it's much easier. And you know, a lot of times you get caught up in things that you have to do at
So
home
can
or
I put the three of you
whatever.
as
Put the three of
alternates?
us.
Okay. Blue Mountain, I have Carol,
And Lori.
Lori, and Mary. You don't want to be an alternate for that then if you have Furnace Woods. The high school, I go to all of them because I'm the treasurer.
You could put me down
with-
as an alternate.
Okay, Mary, I'll put you down as an alternate also. And SEPTA. Then I have Carol, Charles, and Marion as,
That's fine.
okay? Yep, okay, then we're done. That's it. We have, we will remove respect and grant and ed and safety committee, and that will be you, Carson. All right, we're good.
You can include respect.
Well, no, it's-
Do you want me to put you down as respect, or it's not,
There is no-
there is no.
No, I mean, no, I
safety.
mean, it can include.
She
I
wasn't
think part of it. I
volunteering
said-
for it.
No, I'm just saying safety can include respect, we should create policies to develop, you know, for various reasons.
No, but I'm saying as a separate
Safer.
committee. you're
No, I
respectful.
agree, no, that's fine. But I don't want to sound like we're getting rid of respect.
Okay.
It meets during the day, it meets during the day, doesn't it? Isn't it?
I don't vote
Respect
to
committee,
say.
it used to.
Oh, yeah, safety met at 3:30.
No, that doesn't-
That's Anthony, and they meet around 3:30.
Safety, are you the alternate? I'll be an
Yeah, but I'll
alternate
make,
for safety.
I'll make them all.
So, all right, I'll just put Barbara down as an alternate for safety. All
As long as
right.
I get an email.
Respect used to be wellness, didn't it?
No.
Whatever
No,
happened to
wellness,
wellness?
wellness is
Wellness
not.
is still there, but we're not.
separate.
we're
I
not-
don't think it's a board, I think there's still wellness.
No, respect came out of the whole problem that happened.
It happened, it's actually before that. It was-
Yeah.
So it existed, it took on a different
It did,
perspective.
but,
No,
you know,
but
we
we
used
don't
to
know
have
where
with,
we're at.
Dennis. Dennis is very big with respect.
Right, yes.
All right, so that brings us to the end of our meeting. Audience comment? Oh,
We're not doing code of conduct?
Oh, wait, we did the consent, we did it, we
That was
should, we
done.
should,
We
we
did
did that in the
consent.
consent, we should let the committee know.
There really weren't
do you
any
want to talk about it
changes.
at all, or we?
No, I just wanted to make sure we covered everything.
Yes,
No,
we
I
did.
was on that committee and we didn't make any changes this year.
Yeah, it
Last
looked
year,
the same.
no,
Last
yeah,
couple
last year there
Just
were
press it
major
down.
changes, and the year before, yes. But this year not, so.
I wanted to say one thing. I got a parent report today about kinder camp. And they said their child didn't want to come home with them after kinder camp. They liked it so much. And it's a nice parent, so you know, that was good. That's good to hear that it's a good program.
That's
for
an
us in our-
excellent program.
I think so. We're gonna need a personnel
Absolutely,
meeting
that's what I was going to ask.
before school
Where's all the
starts.
stipends?
We have, ideally Monday or Tuesday, August 24th or 5th would be best. And we can do a morning, we can do an afternoon.
We have to know so we can set up our facility.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that
Right.
too, because we've got, what day is facilities and audit? The audit is the 19th.
Audit is the 19th.
Facilities we're gonna do,
If we're having a meeting on the 26th, I was,
there's no meeting on the
So the 26th is out there as a Wednesday, a standard Wednesday, something, most of the time we
At
meet
this
on
point, we're
Wednesdays.
not intending to, but we may have to have, if we may choose to.
So I get, the question for the board is, do we want to do, I know we've done these, right before school starts, morning meetings to, get the last 2 or 3 people on the books. Do we want to do a morning meeting? Do we want to wait until an evening meeting on the 26th?
I think we're better off doing an evening meeting. I think just getting everybody in here.
Mhm.
Is it, I don't know what people's schedules look like for vacations. Please don't say it out loud here in public. But perhaps the 26th might be an answer, the evening.
Yeah, I put
and
the
then you can
26th
tie it
out
in
as
with
a
the
Wednesday.
facilities.
Yeah, I put that out as a Wednesday night,
Why
but I
don't
know
we-
last couple years we've done the 8 o'clock, hire the last couple teacher assistants or whomever.
Will there be anything else besides that, or would that be the
Extracurricular
only
Put that
activities.
BLL policy on too.
That's
That was in
tonight.
tonight's-
Oh, that was tonight,
We
right,
can-
right, sorry. The
I
list.
mean, we can make a concerted effort not to. I mean, sometimes things come up.
But I
guess-
think we're gonna have to. I mean, there's always something.
So, do we
Why don't
want-
we suggest, just keep in mind that we will just plan to have one on the 26th, but keep that as the date, that if we're going to have this, that would be the date.
Is that-
Does that work?
And we'll publish
Works for
that.
me, okay.
And then
So
we do
the-
facilities right before that,
Mhm.
5 o'clock.
What,
so
on the
then-
26th?
So plan on having your facilities right
5:30?
before it, and if we
5:30,
don't
yeah.
have a board meeting, then you
Because
guys get out
it's
early.
going to be fast.
Okay,
because-
we'll go. All right, so the 26th,
Okay,
we will
so
approve the
facilities
August.
5:30, 5:30 and 6.
5:30?
5:30, 5:30.
This is for the public also. So just to follow up with our retreat, we had a retreat in July, and we essentially identified our board goals, which are core goals of college and career readiness, improving the public perception of the district, and then, of course, passing a responsible budget. But then in addition, we also discussed alternatives to suspension as a priority, developing some kind of program, and we developed a very broad focus on looking at social emotional needs of students, which isn't going to be meaningful unless we really focus what it means and how we're going to do that. It's for every student, but we have to look at risk, but it could be for every student. So I just wanted to put it out there, what we're going to, and then of course we're going to be looking at board meetings and how to make them more open.
And we've
More
started,
refreshing, yes.
so
So,
we started working on that
So when do we
already.
start narrowing down those goals, because that's going to be key? And we also talked about changing start times, but I think that's not going to
No, we really
That wasn't in the
Yeah, it's not
meeting.
going to be
No.
able to be done this year, certainly. So,
But I think that all ties in, and it's something that we can start addressing and working that into the board meetings as, conversations as we go
because
forward.
I think we need the public to be involved in certainly, identifying. We would like
Well,
some
we can
input,
start
too.
working that into the agenda, and when people do check the agendas and such, they, or we can mention it perhaps, and let them know that would be a good topic. Okay. So then our next board meeting right now is scheduled for 3 weeks from tonight, on August 26th. It will be here at the district office again, same at 7:30 at night. And it will be advertised. If in the event we don't need it, it will be also unadvertised. Or we will notice that it will not
Double
happen.
advertise it.
Exactly. We'll do the opposite.
Yes.
So, other than that,
Is
thank
there-
you.
Is there any chance that we want to move the audit committee meeting to the 26th?
No,
I
because
think
you're
we're
doing.
fine. We have them coming, so.
We
We
have
have people coming,
facilities,
so.
and Luan is in the last months of her pregnancy, and that's why.
We're not pushing it not a minute later.
Okay.
That's okay, we have them, and it's all penciled in, so. All right, if that's it, then, can I get a
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Safe travels. Thank you.